Hi, good evening out there, dear ladies, dear women. This is another Monday night, and I welcome you warmly to another Let's Talk About Courage, Authenticity, and Femininity. This talk tonight is going to be in English, as you can guess, because my guest is Alice Hong, and so our conversation will be led in English. And to give you a short introduction, this is the fifth talk on that series, and the idea about the talks we have is really to inspire you women out there to walk your path courageously and really find your own voice, your own path, and walk in an authentic and courageous way, and hopefully we can create role models and inspirations for you by these interviews by all these amazing women. So tonight, I'm very honored and I'm very excited to welcome Alice here. She is at least as passionate as I am about female embodied awakening, and has been a leader and a coach in that field for many years. She has worked with many women. I had the great joy to see her live in Zurich a couple months ago, and she has such a warm and loving presence, and that really embodied and centered way of being. So Alice, warm welcome to you. Let's see if I can invite you. And here she is.
Hey,
Hi.
let me get
Hi.
this set up so my head's not cut off. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping in and just saying, yes, let's do this and have that conversation.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. Thank you for the warm welcome. And yeah, I'm glad that we had a chance to meet in person as well at Wild Women Gathering.
Yeah.
And it's a joy to be able to connect and share more with you and with the community as well. Yeah,
Yes.
for sharing your work in the world. So I look forward to this conversation.
Yes, me too. I'm really, really excited about it because um, what I know about your path, I'm really impressed and I feel really inspired by, from what I understand, and please share more about it. Your work is very much also bringing women into their bodies, and it's what I notice, or what I understand. It's a lot also about pleasure and really arriving in that tempo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe you just want to share or start by sharing a little bit about what your work is, what your passion is, and maybe a little bit about your path.
Sure. Yeah, so, my absolute passion in life stems from my own personal journey, as many of us do, which is to support people and women in particular to really get out of who they think that they should be, who we've been told that we should be in the world, and really embrace the path of the wild woman, which is the one who carves her own path, who listens to her own heartbeat, who responds to her soul desires, and lives in a way that is truly authentic to who we are, even if it's the non-conventional path. So that's what I love to do. And a lot of my work is in the body, as you shared, because I've spent a lot of years, as I'm sure many of you who are listening do as well, in the mind, and getting kind of trapped in the circles of thoughts and belief patterns of how we should be showing up. And I found that along my path, which started out in the yoga world and the meditation world, I lived at retreat centers. I taught at retreat centers for almost a decade of my life. Had a yoga school in Canada where I was a co-director, and very much on this path of spiritual awakening or spiritual enlightenment, shall we say. And it was a really beautiful path to connect me to the greater, whatever we want to call the greater or the divine. And yet I became more and more disconnected over those years to actually my body and my senses and my feelings, my emotions, and everything that it is to be a human being. So it was really through the work of Tantra that supported me to merge these two aspects of me, the part of me that knows that I am more than just this human body, and at the same time, the one who fully embraces being in this human experience for everything that it is. So it is through the practices of pleasure, of welcoming our emotions, of embracing the wild wisdom that our body carries, that I love to most share in the world as a path to coming home, as a path of deep remembrance of who we are, and then also celebrating and expanding the potential and the possibility of who we have also come here to be.
Mm, mm. There's so much I wanna comment on and ask you, and yeah, I feel very much, and I think it might be a great opportunity tonight to talk, because I feel a lot of women listening to us are on that path of yoga and spirituality. And what really resonated with me is when you said you've been in your mind for many years, as as well as I am, and I still catch myself that I have all these ideas how I should be and how things should work. And I think in that spiritual community, it can be very tricky because all these ideas about love and peace, they seem so elevated. They seem so good intended. They seem so honest. They seem so pure. But it it might not really be your authentic call. It might not be, in the sense of, it might not be connected to the entire range of feelings, the entire range of emotions, the entire uh, sensations of lust and eroticism. So, and I think that's something that you really explored, and maybe you can share a little bit more what, yeah, how you can integrate that into your life in an authentic and courageous way.
Sure. So yeah, maybe just to backtrack, because I know maybe some people listening might know bits and pieces of my story, and some of you, we might be new to each other. So I would love to share one piece, which is um, about a really pivotal relationship in my life, which was with my ex-partner. And he and I, oh, my friend Lindsay is here. Hey, Lindsay. I haven't seen her for a long time. She's a dear, dear sister that knows this story because we've been around long enough when the story was happening and she was around. So welcome, love. So I was in a really beautiful spiritual relationship, let's say partnership, where we did all the yoga things, all the spiritual things together. You know, we led yoga teacher trainings, we did retreats around the world, we chanted mantras on Sunday mornings. Like, it was really this path that was so satiating for me because I got to have deep spiritual conversations with my beloved. And that's something I know that many women on this path long for, to have a companion like that. And at the same time, and I use this word and often because it's not this or that, it's both. And next to this spiritual relationship was this disconnection from my feelings, because as a yogi, I should be able to meditate all of my feelings that I didn't want to feel: sadness, anger, frustration, because I should be, you know, in quotes, should be able to find that equanimous place inside where I no longer felt those things. And that was something that I was practicing. Or my lust, you know, you talked about this word lust, desire. I was, you know, a woman in her late 20s, early 30s that had a lot of sexual energy online, and I wanted to explore it. It was joyful for me. And yet, because of my partner's decision to not want to have any more intimacy in that way together, that's a whole other long story. But for now, that was his choice. And for me at that time, it was like, okay, well, I have no other choice right now. So let me see if I can also let go of all the tensions in my mind that are supposedly creating lust and desire that wouldn't be there if I was connected enough with Source. So I very reluctantly, admittedly, tried this path for about 2 years. And I just woke up one morning, like literally on the bathroom floor, you know, secretly, like door locked tap running while I like quietly self-pleasured myself, in the master bedroom of our bedroom, where I cried. I just broke down and cried. I was like, what? Like, what is this life that I am living right now? Where, like, why would the divine, why would God, why would the universe give me this body full of these pleasurable ways to experience the juicy nectar of life if I couldn't use them? It just no longer made sense to me. So for me, in the last, 7, 8 years, has really been a reclamation of, yes, I am divine, and yes, I am more than this body, and I am also this body, and I am also this heart.
Yeah.
And I came here in this body in this lifetime to really feel it all and to be a human being.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of pieces of my journey. And it wasn't easy. I chose many things that wasn't the popular path, and
Yeah.
certainly not for my family. And friend groups, communities shifted many times along the way as I grew and transformed. And it wasn't always easy. And yet some part of it, when I really listened to my heart, felt necessary. Like it was no longer a choice not to do it, not to follow my path.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is something many women I talked to in these interviews said, that this is like the pivotal point, that at some point you don't have the choice anymore to not to listen to your heart anymore.
Mm.
Yeah. Because that to me that is very much connected to courage, because just the way you share right now, I can feel it's really integrated, and it's really, you walk that path, and I think everyone awake and listening knows and can feel that it's not always easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so what helped you, or I mean, besides that moment of, okay, I just couldn't, otherwise just couldn't deny my heart anymore, but what helped you to walk that very courageous path? I mean, and that, like, the backdoor question is, how do you deal with criticism? Because many women I feel that I work with, or I assume you too, like, it is the fear of being expelled from community, the fear of being criticized, that leads them to kind of stay where they are. So, and in your story, so what helped you? What made you take these courageous steps?
Mm. Such a good question. I love this question so much.
Mm.
Um, so a few things come to mind, and it might be in kind of, I might jump a little bit here and there. So for me, I think I was kind of born a wild woman at heart. So, I'm an Aries, lots of fire in
Yeah,
my
me
face.
too.
You are as well? Yeah. So you know it, you get it. So I've always kind of pushed against the grain since I was young. And so that was a very challenging relationship sometimes for my parents. I'd come from a very traditional Chinese background, and chosen a lot of untraditional things in my life. So from very young, I was already working with, okay, what does my heart want and what do my parents want? And often having these conflicts. So I was starting to develop this muscle at a very young age. But I think a few things have helped me take the more courageous path, which is that one of them is the criticism. It took me a while, like into my early 30s, I would say, to really understand that criticism is always going to be there. And I know, and even in, these very spiritual, loving communities that we create where we say nobody's judging you, and that's bullshit, actually. I never understood that. I was like, of course everybody's judging. Like, we all have a judging mind. That is what the mind is designed to do, is to make sense of the world, and we do that through judging. And it's actually okay that we do this. So there's always going to be a critic, and no matter which side or what action you take, somebody is always going to judge it, and they will always judge it from the point of view and understanding of life that they have in that given moment. And that judgment can be based on so many things, big and small. And most of it from, they woke up and they got a terrible news that one of their family members is ill and they're feeling super sad today. Or they were up all night with their screaming baby and is feeling so tired right now that they're at the edge of their limits. Like, we never know what people are dealing with. So anytime we get a criticism or a judgment, it's always from the lens of where that person is standing. And most of the time, it has nothing to do with us or you or me. So once I came into an understanding and acceptance of that, that was much easier to then walk my path without the fear of criticism. The other thing is that I also had a very loud inner critic inside my own self that was way more intense, way more judging, way more critical than anybody on the outside probably possibly could be. And that inner critic, I've really worked with a lot to come into radical self-love with myself. And it is an ongoing practice of just really loving every single aspect of who I am. So that was really big work for me to do. And it took me a long time to get that. It was once I got fed up with my own inner critic that then I could let go of feeling criticism from anywhere else, because I was my biggest critic.
Oh my God, my entire body is saying yes, yes, yes. So at the time, it's like, and I really hope that the women listening to that really get that there will always be like a critic. They will that, and you just said it so beautiful. That's what the mind is designed to do, and it really helps us in day-to-day life to think this is bad for. I don't eat that plant. It's not going to be healthy for us, for me.
Exactly.
It's such a, and just see it as what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I just interrupted you right now because I couldn't hold back anymore, it's just the self-love part. The one thing that it's an ongoing journey, and I really feel that's really, I mean, it's so, everyone teaches it, and like it's so such an ongoing saying, but it's so true. It's like I really feel it has all to do with how much can I accept myself with all my desires, with my greed, with my lust, with my jealousy, with my joy, with my light. Like, it's all about self-love.
Mm-hmm. It's really a big piece, and sometimes once I think I get it, then it's like, of course, the universe comes with something else. It's like, oh, but do you really love yourself? Do you really love this part that's super jealous, or this part that you that feels not enough? And so yeah, it's an ongoing practice. And also, I feel like the more that I've come into really fully loving myself, the less impact the judgment from the outside makes, and for me, it's not to say that I never take criticism to heart. It's like, of course, I love to listen. I love to listen to my clients and people who are in my programs, and I love to listen to my family and people who are beloveds in my life, because they can also offer a mirror for us that, like, I can't see myself. So I value feedback and input. But what I have shifted is I put less that their criticism, judgment, reflection, whatever we want to call it, is the truth, and I welcome it as an input. And then I learned to track my body to say, okay, how is that input impacting me? Is it building up my ego in an unnecessary way also, that then I'm just reinforcing my own ego? And nothing also wrong with the ego yet, but am I just using it to reinforce a story of myself? Or is it actually, they said something and it's like, oh, it has zero imprint on me. It's just like a passing thought. Or is there something that actually triggers me deeply in what they have to share? And then if it triggers, then I also look at that to say, okay, well, what is it triggering inside myself? And not make it mean that what they said was the absolute truth, but why am I triggered by it? And that often for me gives more helpful information than it does to just feel like in my, not enoughness wound because somebody criticized me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that is um, what you just said is a very practical, a very, very down to earth hint how, what you can actually apply if there's criticism, or if we think sometimes there isn't any, and it's just that internal trigger. It's just our
Right.
inner critic picking it up because we are actually judging ourselves that much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
100% with you on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So, like at where you're at right now in your life, and it's an ongoing path. Um, what would you say? Um, like how would you define femininity, or what, not a definition in the sense of a dictionary, but what do you think is at the core of femininity in this 21st century right now here in, let's say, in the Western world?
Mm.
And yeah,
Mm.
how do you feel like authentic femininity, because it's very different, I feel, what it is now than what it meant 1,000 years ago, and what
Mm.
it will mean 1,000 years ahead. So what do you feel like from your experience and from where you're standing? What does that sound
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. Yeah, also a great question. So the a lot of my background comes from the field of Tantra and like the tantric philosophies. So, I feel maybe like my response right now would be, at least what's alive right now comes from that lineage, which is really that, the feminine is that part of us. Doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, doesn't matter how you identify, not identify as gender. It's just a quality that we can call feminine. We can also call it many other things. But this feminine is the one who experiences, right? So if the masculine, or Shiva, as it's called in Tantra, is the one who is consciousness, awareness, presence, the observer, the feminine, or Shakti, is the one who comes alive. She's the one who experiences. She's the one who tastes and touches and feels and senses and dances her way through the world. She's the one who welcomes all experiences. So for me, the quality of the feminine that is really alive, and I see it, and there's different topics, there's topics like pleasure, like the emotions, like, all of this. They're just topics. At the core of the essence behind it is the one who experiences, the one who like breathes life in, the one who says yes to all of life and what life has to offer.
Yeah.
And what can we receive as well? Like, what can we receive through our senses? There's this beautiful tantric meditation, which is where, a lot of our time in our senses, a lot of our senses are on the front side of our body, right? Our face. This is where we see, this is where we hear, we taste. And so we're often in a relationship with the world where we are active or more masculine, like, okay, I'm going to go and look. Like right now, I'm looking out at the screen at you, The feminine quality is actually to like rest back in oneself. And instead, and those of you who are watching right now, you can even do this instead of like letting your ears try and listen to what we're saying right now, or having your eyes look exactly at us and trying to see. Actually sit back in yourself and see what happens if you welcome the feminine, which is to let what you see on the screen right now come to you. Like, what happens if you receive through your sense of sight? Can you open your ears so that you can receive the words and the stories and the transmissions? Can you be in receptivity even as you are engaged with life? So for me, that's a big part of the feminine. She's got many wild faces, so that's not the only one, but this is what's coming through right now.
And that's such a beautiful, beautiful way to describe it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And it made like what you just shared made a big difference in my life and in my work. That leaning back, like right now, for example, in the interview, I'm really leaning back. I feel like support. In my case, it's really the image of the goddess, that because I relate to the goddess. So I don't know, whatever you want to call it, you're right, or just the universe or the air supporting you, and just that, yeah, receiving and not having to do it and to know it, like that focalized energy. That, and it makes such a difference. Things are just so more. It costs less energy. I really feel when we're in that. Yeah,
It does. It allows us to be in the energy of circulating,
yeah,
learning to circulate the energy inside rather than this constant like
mm,
outpour of
yeah,
energy. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Mm. I'm still like, yeah. So I really, because I feel that is something that connects us very much, is that embodied female spirituality. And you just mentioned tantra, and I would like to hear your take on that, because um, to me that is the path I'm following, and I think it is really for women. It it's such a value thing to have a look into, if you're not familiar with tantra, to really have a look into, because many of these aesthetic practices, like all, and I really value this masculine practice. They have brought me a long way at this focalized, be quiet, sit practices, right?
Mm.
And I still feel they're very dominating in the Western world. Like many things that are offered are these practices that are more tailored for the main physiology, for the main male brain, for the male um, or masculine body. And I feel as a woman, we are so much connected to our body, and we're so much ruled by our cycles, and we're so closely connected to Mother Earth. And I really feel that Tantra has a, a huge treasure to kind of show us these more female practices. And maybe you can, um, I would like to hear you like differentiating a little bit on what is female, or yeah, female practices, or what really what you would recommend a woman, like how to practice, or how to um, incorporate these teachings into her daily life.
Mm.
I mean, you heard me. I could like, it's a huge question, but I really want to make that it gets tangible for the women. Okay, what's the difference between that masculine? Nothing against the masculine, it's great, yeah.
Yeah.
But I really feel, and you got me. So maybe you
Yeah.
wanna.
So first of all, I'm gonna just type real quick in here into the comments because I have some really great embodied feminine practices that you can just have access to. Um, so I'm gonna do this afterwards actually, but if you just hop onto
Yeah,
the website,
yeah, that would be
so
great, because this is gonna be, so just in the comments you will they can find where to work with you, and maybe also the practice. That would be great.
exactly. So if you're just wondering if you want some, like I'll share some now, but just so
Mhm,
that you have something to take away
mhm,
from this conversation as well, make sure that you just hop onto my website, go into the free gifts tab, and then there's a few practices that you can download. And they're great for men, they're great for women, anybody who wants to access more of their feminine. So to answer that question, I would say, some of the most impactful practices is literally connecting with the feminine components of your body. That sounds very technical, but anyways, connect
yeah,
with. So I'm very masculine. So to connect with your heart and to connect with your yoni. So your yoni in Sanskrit means sacred space. On the body, it's landmarked as your vulva, your vagina. I just watch these words sometimes on Instagram, which is why because they are very terrified of the feminine movement sometimes. But to literally like place your hands on these two areas of your body and to breathe into them and to simply even acknowledge that they exist. It seems kind of radical in some ways, radically simple. And at the same time, many women have never even thought to ask their pussy, how does it feel today? How does she feel? And that is, I would say, one of the single most important practices to do. And I do this every morning. Sometimes it takes me one breath. Sometimes I'm there for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'm there for more. But that would be the first place to start, is to acknowledge that you have a woman's body. The second thing is to bring pleasure. I'm a big advocate of pleasure because I feel like we have enough, things that we work really hard at that we need to get done. There's a lot of masculine energy that runs our life, and we kind of need it in order to run a household, to raise a family, to have a job. Like all of these things do require a masculine action. So it's not about getting rid of them, it's about bringing more balance to them, to expand your spectrum of how you go about things. So then a pleasure practice is really one where you bring awareness to your body. And again, it can be really simple. I always start with one hand to my heart, one hand onto my yoni, and then see from there. It's like, oh, what kind of touch does my body desire this morning? Does it want to be softly caressed? Do I want to be held? Do I want to wrap myself up in a big blanket and just hold myself here? Do I feel aroused and excited and turned on? And can I give myself permission to feel my turn on and to respond to my own turn on? A woman's turn on is the most powerful creative force there is out there. And I get it at a much deeper level than when I was a yogi, being like, the second chakra is where your creativity and your, it was kind of cerebral at that point. And now it's like, I get it. Like when my pleasure and my inner turn on is alive, my capacity to create is immense. And so is every woman's. We are born here to create. So those would be some of my simple practices. And then again, if you hop onto my website into the free gifts tab, you'll find 5 other practices, which is about awakening the feminine heart. There's one where you bring breath and sound and movement to your body, which is super juicy. Practice in there to release tension from your mind so that you can drop more into your body. Yeah, lots of good gems.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I'm sure it's very worth it to check out your website. And we're going to link it in the comments as well so that people find you and find the way you work. So maybe you want to share is because I know that you're based in Zurich now, which is awesome. Yay! Exactly. Is there anything coming up where people like start to meet you live? Do you have any plans that you want to share?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for making the space for it. So yes, I have a few programs that are like my signature programs, and then we always have like, new inspiring things that are popping up when the creative download comes after pleasure, usually. So we have an Untamed Wild Feminine, which is one of my signature programs. It's a 6-week deep dive into, it's a wild feminine initiation. And it's in person, it's live in Zurich, it's live in Canada in March 2023, Zurich in November. It starts November 2nd. There's only one spot left. It filled up super quick. And then there's another session January 2023. But that one is really, it's juicy, it's potent, it's raw. It's all about creating new imprints of what is possible for you in terms of your relationship to your body, and really learning to let go of any shame or conditioning that we've held and come into welcoming our body as our temple. It's about pleasure, beautiful pleasure practices, about emotions. Anyways, it's juicy, it's full, it's transformative. So we've got that. Yoni Temple, which is a 1-day retreat, all about connecting to your female pleasure. It's super gorgeous. Women just walk out of there always saying, this is the most sacred connection I've ever had with my body. So that's December 4th, and it's about half full. We've got one for the men. It's called Emotions Uncensored. So check that out. We welcome men to be with me and with the sisters in one of our sessions for Untamed. It's very raw and intense. and it's amazing. So we've got that. And then also another Wild Women gathering. We are looking at dates. We're hoping maybe to do one at the beginning of December. Let's see if we can find a location for that. And then online, of course, for those of you who are international, I have Wild Women Temple, which is an online membership portal where we explore different topics like what we've talked about here tonight, and different topics each month. It's a gathering of women from all around the world, and yeah, super great and juicy. Yeah. And there's much more, but I will leave it there. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And okay. So many things to explore and ways to connect with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, the best is always, if you're curious, to jump on my email list. Things fill up quick usually, so I usually have a wait list for things. So if you hop on my email list, you'll be amongst the first to know. And yeah, I would love to share more of this work. It's so valuable and needed and joyful.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's just inspiring just to hear you talk and to see you. And I think that is many times the most the best reference, just to see how is the woman engaging with the word, how is she speaking, how is she embodied, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my dear. So we are we've talked yeah, only or already half an hour. I think we expanded forever. Um, I thank you so much for taking your time, for letting us in a little bit on your views and how you perceive these topics.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on and sharing your time and your passion for this
Mhm.
work as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I just have one more thing to share, if that's okay.
Please,
Yeah, it
of
was
course.
inspired by a question that you sent over actually
Yeah.
before, that I wanted to explore. And I just see a few people popping on right now. So I just wanted to give a little nugget for those of you who are joining right
Yeah.
now. Um, which is, you asked about this, about courage and how to like live a path of greater authenticity in the feminine and have the courage to do so. And like you shared, a lot of women that you work with, I work with, um, it's like you can hear your heart and what it desires. And you've probably been listening to it for a little while. And yet there's something that's in the way that's blocking you, either in your head thinking like, okay, but it's not safe to quit my job. It's not safe to leave my relationship, or what if I can't find anyone better, or who will really love me if I leave my relationship. I was in that, in my last marriage, for example. So in these moments where it takes a bit of courage, I just wanted to share about the word courage itself. So courage comes from the word cœur, which is heart in French, right? And then there's also the word rage in there.
Mm.
And so courage is like, one of my teachers, Bruce Lyon, shared this with me once. Like, courage is the rage of the heart.
Mm.
It's that which sets your heart on fire. Courage is that part of you that is the alchemy of fear and excitement. Because chemically, the response in the body of fear and excitement is actually the same. It's the same chemical response. It's just our mind that interprets it and then labels it as I'm terrified or I'm excited.
Mm.
So when we learn how to alchemize some of these feelings inside us, instead of just being like, I'm so scared, and to let that overtake you, to let that nervousness be like, okay, nervousness is just energy bubbling in the body. What if we didn't make it mean anything? It's just energy moving in our body, right? What if that flutter that we feel in the heart is our heart fire that is lighting up right now, saying, you can do this. Like, just take the one step, and we start to move more from that place. And rather than the mind, which is very rational, to want to figure it all out, right? The mind wants you to have your clear life plan set out before you quit the job and pursue your passion of what really makes you come alive. But the thing is that we'll never be able to create something new from the place where we are now, because then we can only create more from where we are now. And that's what's keeping us stuck here. So in order to have the courage, it's like the courage to let go and follow the courage, the raging heart, before needing to know every step of what's going to happen. And in fact, it's an amazing thing that you don't know. It really is, because that's where the magic is going to happen. And are you going to fail sometimes? Of course. Are you going to do things where you're like, ooh, I could do that better? Of course. You know, but that's where we learn, that's where we grow, and that's where more possibility opens up, is when we actually dare and follow our heart fire, our courage to walk a path that we don't know yet, and maybe even that other people haven't walked yet. So we don't have the mentors, the examples of people in our life to do it. And I'm on a bit of a roll, so I have one more thing to share, if that's
Please,
okay.
this is important. I totally, I'm happy in sharing this. Yeah.
Okay, good, because you seeded me with so many great questions. Catherine, she
Mm.
sent me like a list of questions, like maybe we'll talk about these things. So I'm just really inspired in this moment by some of your
Mm.
questions. The other thing was like, what is one of the things that really helped me on my path? You asked this earlier tonight, to like be more courageous. And honestly, being with women, like women's circles, and sitting with women like we did at Wild Women Gathering, like we do in Untamed, like we do in the temple, like I have for the last 10 years plus 10, 12,
Mm.
15 years, is being in a circle of women where we can actually open up and share really what is moving through our hearts. Like, where are the places that are bringing us to our knees in surrender? Where are the places that are really lifting us up? Because when we dare to share in a group of women what is truly alive for us or really dead for us, the energy that it takes to keep all of those secrets of how we really feel about ourselves, and to try and wear a mask into the world to show that I'm okay when actually I'm not okay inside. All of that energy gets to be freed up
Mm.
for more courage, more bravery, more honesty. And when
Yeah.
we sit in a group of women, and I know you know this because you do this work, and we see other women in our circle waking up and standing tall and rising up, and we're there to witness her as she falls down and learns to reconstruct herself again in a new way. Like, when we have so many living examples of women around us who are doing this, it is so effing inspiring for us to do our own work. And that has been, I'm just smiling because Tinka is on here now. Tinka is like my right hand gal in Zurich for all of these events that we're putting on. Hey, Tinka. She helped put on Wild Women Gathering. She's part of Untamed. So it's having women like Tinka in my life, like other women who have popped on, that has supported me in becoming more courageous on my path. And I know that the more courageous I am in the way that I show up in the world, the more it's going to inspire you to be more courageous on your way. So that has been probably the single most valuable thing in my life, is having
Yeah.
a group of women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I totally agree. And I just want to add one more thing, because I think it's such a great container to sit in a women's circle. It's such a safe space that is the perfect laboratory situation where you can really show you walk, and you show yourself with all the shame, and 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 you realize, okay, I can do this, and I'm not gonna get killed, I'm not gonna get expelled from the community. And you do it for the first time in such a safe container, and you realize, oh wow, and all the energy gets you, and then it's so much easier to step out to the world and share and show that side of yourself as well. So I think it's, yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It is really like to create circles of people around you to find them if you don't already have them, you know, like find them, reach out to us, reach out to women who are in your community who might know, to find those circles of women because, yeah, like you said, to have a, you know, I often like to use the words like to have a safe enough space
Yeah.
where you can be really brave, where you can use this as your living laboratory to be like, wow, I've never set my boundary with someone before in my life. Like maybe there's a space inside this women's circle where I can state my boundary for the first time,
Yeah.
you know, and then we start to build that muscle
Mhm.
of courage and of a new way of being because we do have the community of people around us who are doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that
Pleasure.
as well.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for making this space. Mm.
All right, let's try it again.
Okay. I could stay
And
on
I
here
would
and talk to you
love
all
that
night.
it's a
So
short
yes.
format. I think it's not people, it's just, yeah. But yeah, I feel it's really worth to listen to that talk again because you share so many valuable pearls and treasures, um, and lots of practical stuff. So yeah.
Mm.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you close in the magnetic field here in Zurich.
Yeah.
And thanks to all the women out there. Thanks for listening, for joining, for getting inspired. If you have any questions, even after the talk, let us know in the comments. We're going to be answering either Alice or me. And yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Just make sure you tag me if you have a question in the comments so that I see you and I can reply, or always feel free to send me a DM or anything like that. And yeah, I just look forward to being near each other as well here in Zurich and spending some more time. I know we have a date on the calendar later this
Yes,
week, so
we do.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Alice.
My pleasure. I'll drop the embodiment practice into the comments below, so make sure you grab that
Great.
as well.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
put it live right now, and then you have all the space to drop that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All
Great.
right.
Thanks
Bye
so much for
bye.
the attention. Bye.
So, to you, dear ladies, I'm gonna switch into German. Die nächsten Gespräche finden wir auf Deutsch statt. Ich lasse es euch jeweils vorher im Instagram, in der App oder auch im Status von WhatsApp wissen, wer als nächstes eingeladen wird. Und wenn ihr mehr Infos haben wollt, was ich anbiete, was meine Arbeit ist, dann seht euch die Webseite an und alles weitere dann ganz bald und einen ganz schönen Abend euch. Tschüss!